Hey, good evening. It's Travis with Oscar Mike Radio. How are you doing tonight? It is March 5th, 2020, and I have a special guest from the great state of Tennessee, Army veteran Phil Cook. Phil, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Hey, thank you much. It's an honor to be here tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was in Nashville not too long ago and just really taken with how the whole state really walks their talk when it comes to veterans, man, especially veterans who have dealt with service-connected disabilities. And you serve in the Army, have a very interesting story to tell. So why don't you start with your Army service and how you got into the Army and served?
Well, my whole family has a history of being in the service, so it's like a family tradition.
Oh, wow.
Myself. So with me, I came in the service in 2000, prior to 9/11, of course. My first duty station was in Germany.
Oh, nice.
9/11 happened, then OIF 1 kicked in, deployed over there to Iraq. We ended up doing 18 months instead of 9 months like we were supposed to. So we were part of the detail that had to escort vehicles to and from Kuwait up into Iraq to establish military bases over there during OIF 1. During my 18
now, for everybody out there, can you just tell us what OIF means?
Operation Iraqi Freedom. This is for
Gotcha.
the Iraqi war campaign.
Right, I know that, but a lot of people who are watching this may not. So you're part of that that involvement over there.
Correct. That was one of 3 deployments I did during my time in Iraq.
Now, how long was each deployment? A lot of people don't understand or appreciate that. What's when you say deployment? How many months is that?
Sometimes it could be 9 months. Sometimes it could be a year. Sometimes it could be 6 months. There's no given time frame. It's just a matter of whenever the Department of Defense decides that they need you in a particular area, they send down the orders and you go.
So essentially 2.5, almost 3 years, you were not in the United States. You were overseas in a danger zone.
Well, typical deployment, you'll deploy, you come back home for anywhere from 6 months to a year, then you deploy again. During my time in, we have Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, which is Afghanistan campaign. So with my 16 years that I put in, I was actually in Iraq 3 times and Afghanistan twice.
Oh, wow.
I definitely had my share.
And did you serve Army the entire time?
Yes, I did.
And were you primarily in a combat MOS role or support role? When you mentioned, trucks, I think Order T.
Right. The first time when I first went in, I was doing a quartermaster job, which is a support element. I did water purification and petroleum fuel as a fuel specialist. Later on, from that, I transferred over into NBC, dealing with chemical warfare, masks,
Nice.
stuff like that. And then the last 4 years of my service, I was utilized as a public affairs representative while stationed in Korea and at Fort Hood, Texas. So I got a wide variety of different things that I did while I was in.
Now, water purification is a big deal. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was in, we would go out in the desert in Arizona, and they would literally put a hose in one of the reservoirs, and that's what we drank. But it was It was dirty, like not for human consumption. And 3 hours later, it was watering 400 Marines. It was amazing. Very important job.
Oh, that it is. Even with patrol as a fuel specialist as well, because without fuel and water, your soldiers can't get the job done. Bottom line.
No, it's logistics.
Yep.
So we were talking before, we did this, and you were telling me that during your service, you took a pretty severe injury. I mean, can we talk about that a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be fine. In 2000, between 2003 and 2005, during the 18-month deployment, MSR Tampa in Iraq, I was blown out of a 50 cal gun turret and slid into the side of an 88 tank due to an IED blast on the side of the road. It messed up my back really bad. I spent some time in Kuwait, went back to Germany. They did physical therapy, and afterwards they said, well, you're good to go. Pushed me on to my next duty station. I've had issues with my back ever since then. And then in 2015, after coming back from NTC out of being with First Cab out of Fort Hood, I finally had to have back surgery to where because I could barely walk at all. They pulled shrapnel out of my back. I had a 7-hour back surgery procedure. It took me 2 months to learn how to walk all over again. I had to utilize a walker and was doing physical therapy literally 3 times a week to try and gain the strength back in my legs to be able to walk again. During that process, they discovered that I had a pinched right sciatic nerve in my back from where they had put the cage in. Because of that, my right leg tends to go numb and just give out without warning. Therefore, that is why today I wear a KFO leg stabilization brace on that leg.
Do you feel that if they had been, it sounds like, and I don't know, that maybe when you went to Germany the first time that they weren't as thorough as they could have been, or was it just it didn't present itself until later?
Well, back in the day, back in 03, 05, the doctors weren't exactly so sure as to the injuries that we occurred from those IED blasts as we do today. So had they had the knowledge today back then, they could have caught it a lot sooner and avoided a lot of the damage that my back endured. My L3, my L4, my L5, my S1, and S2 are all fused together with a cage, screws, and rods in my lower back to this day. After my surgery, when I had the surgery done, the surgeon told me that he did not expect me to be on the table as long as I was. During his post-op exam, he told me that I would be able to walk again, but I would not be able to go ruck marching like I was prior to the surgery.
So that's incredible, man. I mean, one, if I'm getting the dates right, you suffered with this while serving in active duty for over 10 years.
Correct. They gave me a military profile in order to try and somewhat compensate for the problems I was having with my back. But after a long period of time and not actually having the problem addressed, it made it progressively worse to what it was, to where they finally had no choice but to do the surgery.
And so if I have the time right, you were in the Army for almost 20 years?
16 years total.
16 years total. Okay, so I'm a little off, but still a significant amount of time. 10 out of those 16 years you were dealing with this, they operate on you. And of course, you know, like with a lot of us, you know, once you can't PT and meet the standard, you know, they really don't have any choice but to separate you from service. I mean, that must have been a very drastic change in your life path because you've been in so long.
Yes, it was. And even today, I've retired out 4 years ago. Even today, I'm still having that adjustment period going on. My doctor told me that I couldn't ruck march anymore. And with me being very active, even before I was in the service, it was a real blow to me as a human being, knowing that I could not accomplish the mission and be out there with my counterparts like I was before. Part of my frustration was the fact that I enjoy the ruck marching. I enjoy the daily PT and the field training, the training soldiers.
You liked humping.
Exactly. I'm the type of person that would say, "Oh, you want to piss me off? I got games for you. Let's go. Grab your ruck. Let's go."
So to explain to people what rucking is, or what the technical term across all services, foreign and U.S., is forced march. And as Phil will tell you, it's basically you put a 30 to 50 pound pack on your back. You go walk. Well, it's not walking is not the right word, right, Phil? It's more like a short run for 5 to 20 miles.
For some people call it a hike. For us, it's called ruck marching. Same thing, basically. Basic concept. What we would do is with the ruck march, you have anywhere from 15 to 60 pounds a given day on a particular distance that you decide to go for a ruck march. Active duty side, we would put anywhere from 30 to 60 pounds in a ruck. We would go from 5 to 7 to 12 miles with a ruck march on while you're active duty. here I am 4 years later after my surgery, after the doctors told me that I could not do it anymore. And I've got a 30-pound ruck on my back. I'm rucking 3 days a week, anywhere from 7 to 10 miles a day. And I have the opportunity this year to go do the Bataan Death March, which is a 26.2 ruck march in memory of the original Bataan Death March survivors at the White Sands Missile Range coming up March 15th.
So that's kind of where this is really getting interesting when we started talking is, this is not something that a doctor, an orthopedic surgeon, or a chiropractor would say, yay, Phil, let's go do that. One, they told you that you couldn't do it, and two, they're like, it's not a good idea, but you're like, forget all that. And it seemed like, man, that this has been a part of you, kind of like you want to do this to heal mentally, maybe.
Right. This is, for me, I do photography work as well. So with me as a photographer, and with me doing photography work and me doing the ruck marching both as treatment for and as my own therapy for my PTSD that I suffer from, it's real important that I do it. Along with that, I've also found the importance of the rucking because I work with a nonprofit organization called memoriesofhonor.org, and we have events throughout the country that is represented in 47 different states. We put on these events, and we have these bibs that we pass out. It have soldiers' names on them. It has their name, their rank, their branch of service, and the day they were killed in action. At those events, we pass them out, and people can run in memory of a fallen soldier. For me, it's a way of paying back and giving tribute to the soldiers that have given the ultimate sacrifice, that have served and then never made it back home.
Now, how did you get in contact with this org? And what do they do? What's their main focus?
Our main focus, believe it or not, with Memories of Honor, is to help honor our military families as well as the Gold Star family members for their sacrifices and what they have endured themselves through our organization. We have different sporting events, and people can take those bibs, write a message of support and gratitude to the Gold Star family members, and our organization actually takes those messages and sends them to the Gold Star family members to let them know that, hey, your soldier was remembered today and they are not forgotten. It's a very important message for us to let those Gold Star family members know that, yes, you may have lost a family loved one, but they're not forgotten. And with us, through Memories of Honor, their name lives on.
It's kind of key because I've met some Gold Star family members, and one of the things that, over time they've told me is, people gradually forget. One, it's human nature, and two, it's just, there's other things going on. And when they get stuff like this, maybe not through Memories for Heroes, but when someone says, hey, I'm thinking of you, it really means a lot to them. So there's definitely a need there. What's it like being a part of that? Now
for me, it's not only just being out there and saying, hey, I'm here to remember, a group of people. I have a flag that I carry with me that has 12 soldiers' names on it that I served with from the 101st Airborne Division Strike Brigade from 07 to 13. Those 12 soldiers were soldiers that I served with that I knew and that were killed in action. So anywhere I go on my hikes, I make it a point to take that flag and remember those soldiers. A few of those soldiers, I actually keep in contact with their families even to this day as a Gold Star family member. So for me to let them know that, hey, we have an event coming up and I'm going to go ruck in memory of your son or your daughter means the world to them. And to see the look on their face when they get those packages in the mail and to get the messages from the families to let them, when they receive those packages, it's just very humbling. It gives you a real sense of gratitude and humbleness to know that you're making a Gold Star family member know that their family member that they lost has not been forgotten. At the same time, it gives them a peace of mind as well to know that they are not forgotten.
Absolutely. And on that note, you're not forgetting your brother's sacrifice either.
Exactly.
And they stay in your mind, and you know that you're keeping their memory alive. And one of the things that we had talked about extensively before tonight was you know, in doing this, you also found out that photography was a really good way for you to get a creative outlet going and, you know, not only, you know, support memories for heroes, but also get memories of these kinds of events. How has that worked out?
Well, I did photography back in high school with the high school yearbook, and then took off with it from there. Before I went in the service, I did photography work. Even while I was in the military, I continued to do it. And being deployed downrange, when we would have a memorial service for our fallen soldiers, I would be out there taking photographs, documenting the memorial services and the senior leaderships that would actually go up and pay tribute to the fallen soldier. Those images I would turn around and hand them off to the chaplain. The chaplain would then take those images, send them back to the rear detachment, and those images would be sent to the Gold Star family members or their family members that lost their soldiers, knowing that yes, they lost a soldier downrange, but they were not, disrespected, and they had the ultimate uh, farewell by having everybody in that area pay tribute to them for their loss. For me, it was hit very home, very close to my heart for me. Like I said, because there's soldiers that I served with that were killed in action. So for me, it meant a lot. Me doing my photography work through memoriesofhonor.org is a very important thing, because not only do we get to capture the images of the bibs that people are wearing, running in memory of those particular soldiers, but also the fact that we also take time to gather the Gold Star family members in the areas together to let them know that, hey, we are here for you as a whole. We want you to come together. We encourage them to go to the Gold Star family retreats, which is done through the Burgess family in Texas every year, which encourages them to develop friendships with other Gold Star family members as well.
So it really is, you know, photography and the memories for heroes has really helped you in your healing by keeping other people's memories alive and being a part of that. You've also supported some other events as well. Do you want to talk about those?
Yes, I also work with an organization, which is a Marine Corps organization, which is all about suicide awareness and suicide prevention. It's called Irreverent Warriors, and we have hikes throughout the country, primarily on Saturdays, now through December. They've already started kicking off this last week, as a matter of fact, where all combat vets and active duty members get together and they do a group hike together as a whole, which encourages soldiers to open up, communicate with one another, develop new friendships, and talk about the problems that they're going through, rather than having to call a suicide prevention crisis hotline and talk to somebody at the other end, not knowing if they've been downrange themselves or not being able to relate to them what they're actually going through. These hikes are actually encouraged for veterans to take part in, because that way they can sit down one-on-one with somebody, talk with somebody that's gone through the experiences of combat like they have, which actually makes it easier for them to open up and communicate.
And that's Irreverent Warriors, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I have talked to a couple of them before. You know, I was out there in Nashville seeing Andrew Farr, who was involved in that. There's some people in Boston that I know, and it's really interesting. I don't know about you, Phil, hearing people talk about their experience and the fact that they felt safe on these hikes. And I thought that was pretty important. And to your point, do you really feel that, you know, these kinds of things are almost or in some ways better than sitting in a doctor's office talking to a psychiatrist? Do you think it helps out that way, or is it just knowing that you're not alone?
It actually is more beneficial, because not only do you have a bunch of combat vets around you and veterans themselves that you can actually open up and talk with, you develop that trust, that communication, and it gives you an opportunity to be able to pick up a phone or message somebody through Facebook. You know, when you have times if you're stressing out and you need somebody to talk to, and you know that that person that you're talking to can relate to what you're going through, because some people don't like opening up to a psychiatrist and they don't feel comfortable by doing that, but they will open up to a combat vet knowing that they've been downrange and they've experienced what they're going through beforehand, which actually opens up a bigger door for communication And by doing that, we have actually affected a lot of soldiers that have been stressed out, that have been on the verge of committing suicide, and then have not done that because they've gone to these hikes. They've developed that friendship and communication with the people that have done these hikes. And that's what it's all about, is making a difference for our veterans.
So when you're on these hikes, were you on the Nashville hike last year in 2019? Or were you part? So what's it like taking the pictures and seeing the people dressed up and having good times? What's it like to capture those memories for you in that regard?
For me, it's a good thing because you get to see the veterans themselves firsthand, greeting one another, learning to open up, communicate, developing new friendships. At the same time, there's not a lot of barriers and walls to worry about. You don't have that military structure that, oh, well, you need to go through your chain of command to talk to somebody. You need to go talk to, psychiatrist or mental health to get the help that you need. These hikes are developed and designed to where all those barriers are down. It's wide open. There's nothing there. It's you and your fellow combat soldiers and veterans side by side talking and being there for one another.
Well, one thing that I've heard, and this is hard to prove, but in the military and for first responders and law enforcement officers, if you go to your command and tell them, hey, I am not really right, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a lot of that. At the time I was in, you have soldiers that get flagged. They end up getting written up constantly. They become problematic because the chain of command starts singling them out because of that.
Yeah, it was that. It was, they had marital problems and they started acting out, and command figured out real quick it was easier just to get the result they wanted than to help them. And in law enforcement, I mean, they don't want the liability. So these guys are behind a desk. So what it does is it makes them internalize this more, which is why I think these hikes are so important. I just think it's amazing that you're able to do that. There's several times where I've seen people capture event images that I'm like, wow, that was really valuable. So one of the things I get asked about, if we're going to switch up to photography just for a minute, is I get this is my camera. Good old Sony gets the job done. And I get told by people that the cell phone is king. I don't need this anymore. I need the cell phone. So
that is not the case.
Okay. So it's not me saying that. Why is that not the case, and why can't I articulate that very well?
Well, if you look at your cell phones these days, they may have a 4.8, anywhere from 4 to an 8 megapixel image camera built into them. Small processor, small imagery. For on the spot, take a picture. You're out with a family. Hey, that's great. But when it comes to digital cameras, if you want to blow that particular image up, if you see a beautiful waterfall or something, the quality of your image on a cell phone camera is limited once you start blowing those images up. Anything bigger than a 5x7. That's when your digital camera comes into play. Your digital cameras, you have anywhere from a 16 to a 48 megapixel imagery or your megapixels on it, which gives you a lot more range and quality of your imagery to blow up. And I tell everyone else, if you think you can take a camera picture with a phone, take a picture with a phone, take a picture with a camera, and blow them both at the same size and have the same imagery quality, they are wrong, because you will see that a digital camera can do a lot more than a cell phone can.
What's your rig like? What do you take pictures with?
I've got two cameras. I use a Nikon 650, and then I also have a Nikon 5300 crop sensor camera. Both cameras are great for somebody with a low experience, tight budget. I would recommend a D5300. It gives you a 24.6 megapixel imagery on it. It's a crop sensor. The lens kits lenses that come with it are actually pretty decent.
Oh, really?
And the overall performance, you really can't beat it for entry-level camera for DLSR.
Nice. I was going to ask, what has been the best part of the camera process? Is it when you look at the pictures after you've taken them and it's been like, wow, I really got a great image? Or is it just being able to have the trust of somebody to allow them to let you observe this and capture?
It's a combination of actually both. Some of the imagery I catch, which is the real essence, for example, like our hikes that we do for Irreverent Warriors, that shows the people coming together as one, becoming friends, opening up, having that communication. We have soldiers out there that are double leg amputees last year here in Nashville, for example, that actually came out and did the hike with us. Half the time they were in a wheelchair, the other half the time they got out of the wheelchair and walked up some of those hills. And they were out there with a determination to be out there with their fellow comrades and to show that it's all about a team effort and supporting one another. And for me to capture those images is very humbling at the same time, but it also speaks volumes when you see those images trying to tell a story through images as a photographer.
So you're doing this Bataan March. You have these back, injury that you're dealing with. How are you getting ready for this march, and what are you hoping happens as a result of this, Bill?
Well, with me doing all the training for the Bataan March coming up, it's getting me, of course, ready to do the baton. At the same time, I want to be able to go out there, not only prove to myself, but also be able to encourage others as well. You may have a back injury. Yes, you can work your way up to do a baton or a half marathon or a 10K even. Just small increments. Start off with something small and light, and progressively work your way up. I would hope that by me doing this Bataan Death March, I will be an inspiration for others as well to want to go out there and do the same as well.
Man, that's amazing. And Phil, I really hope that we can talk after you do the Bataan Death March and really get an idea of what your experience was like. How can people help out with Memories for Heroes and Irreverent Warriors? What's the way to contact those two orgs? I know Memories for Heroes.
If you want to get involved with the organizations, which is memoriesofhonor.org.
Memories of Honor, I'm sorry.
That's right. memoriesofhonor.org. We are a nonprofit 501c3 here based out of Franklin, Tennessee. But like I said, we are represented in 40 different states. We are always looking for volunteers at some of our events. And if they have anybody out there has a family member that was military service that has passed away or that was killed in action, they can also go to the webpage and register them on there for free. That way their soldier can be remembered at one of our events.
And this memoriesofhonor.org.
Correct. And Irreverent Warriors, it's all about, veterans helping veterans, being there for your fellow veteran as well. And you can check out them as well as our hike schedule for 2020 at irreverentwarriors.com.
And I'll have the links to both those organizations in the post website, Facebook, YouTube post, SoundCloud for Oscar Mike Radio, so you won't miss it. And then, is there a way to watch or follow the Bataan Death March hike?
I will do a few live broadcasts during the Bataan Death March, as well as taking photos. And then afterwards, I will be posting those pictures on Facebook to be shared as well.
How many miles is that march?
26.2. It is actual marathon.
Gotcha. So 26.2 miles in the desert. White Sands, New Mexico is about as void as a space as you can find in the United States.
Well, I grew up in Southern California myself, near Death Valley. So White Sands Missile Range for me is kind of like almost like going back home. It's just another desert.
Well, I went by Death Valley when I was in Yuma and El Centro, and yeah, that part of California is not green, is it?
No, it's pretty much desolate out there.
Awesome. You got some cheerleaders in the background. So Phil, this has just been amazing getting to talk to you. I mean, one of the things like about Oscar Mike Radio is talking to people like yourself who, really had to, adjust and adapt and overcome. And you've done that through, you served your country for 16 years, wounded in action. You got out and you didn't quit. You didn't give up on yourself. And then you're getting ready to do this thing to really kind of push the envelope on what you're about. And I just really want to thank you for the time of getting to talk with us.
Hey, not a problem at all. It's my pleasure. And I look forward to, coming on more often and let you guys know after Bataan how things went and share my experience.
So we are actually, I know I said March 5th, but it's actually, folks, this will be on March 12th. Today is March 12th. When this drops, we're going to be having a good time checking you out. When is your march for in White Sands, Phil?
I leave out of Nashville the morning of the 13th, and I do not return back to Nashville until the 17th. But the 15th is the actual Bataan Death March in White Sands, which is on a Sunday. So,
folks, you're going to watch this, and literally he's going to be on his way to New Mexico to do this march. Hey, Phil, we're right behind you. And as we say in Hawk, we're a lock through launch. Thank you very, very much.
Hey, not a problem. My pleasure. It's been an honor. I appreciate it. And like I said, if you guys want to get involved with Memories of Honor and help us remember our fallen soldiers out there, it's memoriesofhonor.org. You can register your family members on there for free. All branches of service, all situations, we do register them on there. All the names that we have on our data bank are registered through the system by the family members. So we don't just pull names off the internet and put them on there.
Gotcha. Phil, it's been great, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, not a problem. Thank you. It's been an honor. You guys have a great one.
Okay, man, I'll cut there. That was really cool, man. Thank you for being so open and candid about your situation and why you're doing this stuff, man. It's really, when I get it like this, it's really good. Thank you.
Hey, not a problem. I'm glad to be able to get an opportunity to get out there and put it out and share my experience and be an encouragement for others.
Well, it was for me, man. It was for me. I mean, I put on my Alice pack every now and then. I'm like, I can't believe I freaking carried this thing that much. And it's something else that you're still doing it. So it's much respect, brother.
Well, considering I'll be 50 in May. I went to Fort Campbell 2 weeks ago. Yeah, as of yesterday, it was 2 weeks, and I went with my old battalion. We went on a 7-mile ruck. I started them off. We did 7.5 miles in 2 hours.
What? Oh, that's about right. That's actually pretty good. That's because it's supposed to be like 4 miles an hour. The document.
That's exactly that's my pace, and that's what I train at. 4 miles an hour nonstop.
But right, you're supposed to go minimum. That's considered a slow speed, right? 4 miles an hour is the baseline. People go faster than that, but 4 miles is it. So the idea is you can get 20 miles in 6 hours with a stop or two.
Right.
That's moving.
With me having a cage on my lower back, my leg brace on.
Yes.
And 30 pounds. That's kicking butt for a 50-year-old.
Hell yes. I'm getting sore just thinking about it.
But yeah, it was quite interesting. We actually had some younger soldiers that were out there, just came in the Army, and here I am out there with the battalion commander. We actually broke a few of them off. But it makes it nice to be able to get out there with the new younger soldiers and let them know that, yeah, you may be young, everything. Well, if you take care of yourself, you can still do it at my age.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Well, I will cut this, start promoting it next not this Friday, but next Friday. And then I'll get with you when I put it on Facebook. I'll give you the link and everything. All right.
That'd be awesome. And that way I can share it with Memories of Honor as well as Irreverent Warriors, because I know that both of them, I told them about it, and they're looking forward to tuning in on the podcast.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm going to get busy cutting it, and I will talk to you after your march.
All right. Sounds great. You have a great night, and thank you once again. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. You have a good one.
Bye.